Well, what's up, people? How y'all doing? I haven't been here in forever. Well, welcome back, big boy gamer. Nice to see ya. Copper powder, bro. I don't know. Oh, 2 kickbots, one after another. Let's go. I love kick moderation. I love kick moderation. I guess China probably does some copper powder stuff. Ooh, apparently not very much. I'm gonna guess South Africa. I feel like. Oh wait, Chile. I guess Chile. I know has copper. They might not make powder. They might just do raw copper. Oh my god, horrible, horrible. Well, I'm gonna guess Germany. Okay, okay, they're up there. All right, all right. I'm gonna guess the US. I'm not confident at all. All right, we're number 2. All right. Japan, maybe? Oh, I bet it's Australia. Damn. Malaysia? Yeah, never would have guessed fucking Malaysia. Japan. What's Japan? I should have guessed Japan. And then Italy. I guess I could have guessed Italy. Damn this. 500 billion, gas turbines, cars, some oil, and gold, and medicine. Honestly, it's the fucking... I feel like the US has more than 500 billion, don't they? Don't we? Mexico, then? I feel like Mexico, I think, would have more oil. I'm gonna guess Mexico, though. Nah, okay, some European country. I think. Unless it is... There's no way it's just the US. We have more than $500 billion in exports, right? I'm so bad. I need to... I don't know how long kilometers are. I'm pretty sure it does like capital to capital. So like, I don't know, Mexico City to Washington, D.C. Is that 8,000 kilometers? I'm gonna ask Canada. I feel like that's probably a... Yeah, no, it's gotta be a European country. What's up, Starfuse? Who else we kidnapping? They're kidnapping Jill Biden. And Joe Biden, it is fun. It is very funny they kidnapped his wife too. I haven't seen any pictures of the Venezuelan president's wife. I've only seen the pictures of him. Okay, well, I'm just gonna guess Germany, although I feel like Germany does not have much oil or whatever. The UK? That would make sense, I guess. Yeah. Were they making out when Delta Bros pulled up? She's like also charged with whatever drug crimes. So is the wife more important than the vice president? So I don't know. Either, I would guess one of two things happened. One, either she was actually charged with whatever drug crimes we've also charged the actual president with. So we got her too, and the vice president was not. She was not charged with those crimes, to my understanding. Or we didn't have weird ideas about the VP. What do you mean by that? Is it are people expecting her to be more moderate? I honestly, I don't know anything about the new vice president, now president. But I would assume either we took the wife because she's charged with crimes, or because they were like just together and they wanted to fucking take them both. They didn't want to like leave her or something. And like it was just easier to like fucking pick them both up. I don't know exactly though. VP's in a tough situation. Be pro America, be pro regime. Yeah, I don't, you know. The reason I don't even, I barely care about this. Okay. I don't feel like people are like freaking out. I feel like the thing that's going to come with this, the vice president is now in charge. The vice president, she's probably going to have to make some concession to Trump. She's probably going to have to say, oh, we'll give you some amount of oil, or we'll do some amount of drug enforcement or whatever. Trump will get to declare victory, and we'll all move on, and it'll be, you know, barely more than a nothing burger. I imagine, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I imagine that's basically what's going to happen. But yeah, we ignore the actual opposition. You know what? Like, what's crazy? Also, like, my understanding again is that the Trump administration had previously been in talks with the leaders of the opposition. Like, the Trump administration had some plan to pay, I always forget how to pronounce his name, Marjoe or whatever, the president, Nicolas, I think it's Marjoe, right? Something like that. I don't know. To pay him like $200 million and give him like amnesty in a third country, and then have like some of the opposition candidates take over. But he didn't want to do that. Trump didn't. But now we're just like kidnapped the president. This is something better than fucking Yahoo. I don't think this would be his exit plan, considering he's locked up. I would imagine he would have asked for amnesty somewhere in a third country. What's up, man? Okay, welcome back. Oil prices finally gonna go down. Thanks, Trump, I'm sure. Third Trump PV. Oh no, our third term, yeah. I heard Trump decided to go ahead when he saw him dancing to the beat. I saw it on Twitter, but that's just a meme, right? There's no shot. There's no shot. I think he probably got betrayed or whatever. Well, I would imagine. Are you talking about Trump or the president? I would imagine we probably knew where he was because someone in the regime was on our fucking payroll. It's in New York Times. No shot. No shot. Is this? It's not. Where's It was one dance move too many. Rejecting ultimatum to leave office and going to guild exile in Turkey. This week he was back on stage, brushing off the latest U.S. escalation. Strike on a dock the United States said was used for drug trafficking by bouncing to an electronic beat on state television. It was recorded voice repeated in English in No Crazy War. Again, I don't know how to pronounce it. Marjoe is irregular public dancing and other displays of nonchalance in recent weeks helped persuade some on the Trump team that the Venezuelan president was mocking them and trying to call what he believed to be a bluff. Incredible. Don't know what's the poly market. Is this the nothing ever happens in January or whatever? I don't know. But yeah, the poly market for the nothing ever happens in January. That is a funny graph. What's up, John Thomas? Happy about a whole lot of new oil. I'm sure we'll get so much. Can't wait. Wouldn't even be that good if we got it, bro. It's like, from my understanding, I don't know specifically about Venezuela, but from my understanding, generally speaking, oil drilled in the U.S. is more environmentally friendly than oil drilled in other places, and we should probably be moving away from oil anyway. So it's not even. I don't even want the goddamn oil. Okay, fuck yo, big ass Ford F-350. Child killer machine, bro. Okay, like, let's just chill. real life in Guantanamo not worth it. I don't think maybe he will end up there, bro. But I don't think we would put him there. I don't think we don't put anyone new in Guantanamo, right? Aren't we done doing that? It's just there's like 300 people there or something. It might be less than 300 at this point. At least a dozen or so people there that are just kind of in legal limbo because it's hard to go through the military weird court system that they have there. I thought we were done putting new prisoners there. For Guantanamo, he is with Diddy. It's worse. Dude, what if they put him in the Epstein prison, bro? He is in New York, right? Isn't that the? I'd imagine they have different prisons for different types of people. So I don't know if the DEA is going to put him in the same prison as Epstein, as that Epstein was in, because I would imagine it might be different. People running it and shit, but the outcome I want for him is to be found not guilty. It'd be really funny. Yeah, it'd be no. Dear Lord, please let an activist New York judge find him not guilty. Dear Lord, please let an activist New York judge find him not guilty. It would be so fun. The issue with that is, I would imagine the shit Trump would try to do to the courts at that point might be a little fucked, okay? It might be not worth the funny meme. I don't even know what the fuck we would do with him at that point. That's why it's the exit plan. His charges can't hold up. There's no shot. Even if his drug charges didn't hold up, I feel like we would just charge him with some other shit. We'd just be like, you also committed this crime, and looks like he probably did it. He probably did it because he has done, from my understanding, quite a few bad things. So Mandami could kidnap him with Uno reverse. It is funny that he is in New York with Mandami, or ICE could deport him back. Endless possibilities. Dude, I feel like it'd be very... Does he have an amnesty claim? I don't know. Realistically, I don't actually know how safe of a position he would be in if he went back to Venezuela. I guess his government is still in charge, right? But first of all, if he was no longer the president, I would assume he would have bodyguards and stuff and protection still. But if he just went back to live a normal life, it'd be definitely not safe for him. I feel like there's a lot of good reason to believe that just essentially ordinary people and organized gangs would want to fucking kill him. I get it, but I don't know what he would do in government. Would they just give him his job back? I get that might be possible because my understanding is that they it was the Venezuelan Supreme Court that ordered the vice president to take over, and I don't know, maybe that's an acting thing or whatever. And if he came back, they would order the vice president to step down and shit. I heard they can't prove any of the charges. Yeah, I haven't looked into any of that at all, but I would assume even if they can't actually prove the charges they have with him right now, I would assume that we would essentially make some shit up. not even make some shit up, but like I said, try to get him on some other shit, even some international law violation thing, then rather than give him back or send him back or whatever. What if he only gets convicted on the machine gun charge? There's no shot. I don't know the outcome there. Is the machine gun charge is that not as bad as the drug crimes it is charged with? Charging for entering the country illegally. Possession of machine guns. I thought it was more than just that. I thought it was illegal importing of weapons of war or some shit. We should list at the end, like all the actual. Oh, they're in the headings here. Count 1, narco-terrorism conspiracy. Count 2, cocaine importation conspiracy. Possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Yeah, I guess that is just possession. It was gunning down protesters with machine guns, I think. Well, I mean, this just says possession, but I would imagine they also probably have... Okay, yeah, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. Or if you're, no, I was going to say, I would imagine that they would have, and maybe it's part of the conspiracy thing. I would imagine it would not just be like simple possession, but it would be like possession and the intent to use them for narco terrorism, right? Or like possession and intent to use them for, you know, whatever illegal like state activity they think he's doing with regards to shooting protesters or something. Possessing machine guns feels really bullshit. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the exact nature of the crime, right? But so my understanding is the reason people argue, like in the administration, that they can do this is because we've just deemed that he's not actually the real president and he's not actually a state actor, right? We just said like because he rigged the last election, essentially, he's kind of just like not a legitimate state actor, and therefore he can be treated the same as essentially a private citizen, and that includes, I guess, charging him with possession of machine guns from at least in or about 1999 up to and including in or about 2025, an offense begun and committed out of the jurisdiction of any particular state or district in the United States, and which for at least one of two or more joint offenders has been and will be first brought to and arrested in the Southern District of New York. All these people, defendants, during and in relation to a drug trafficking crime. Okay, yeah. So it's in relation to drug trafficking crime. So that's got to be more than just simple possession, right? For which they may be prosecuted in the court of the United States, to which all these people, the controlled substance offense charges in count 1 and count 2 of the superseding indictment. For all these people, the controlled, which just doesn't include the president. Wait, do any... Hold on. I don't know, that is him. I was going to say, is this him or is this someone else? But it's him. Knowingly used and carried firearms, and in furtherance of such crimes, knowingly possessed firearms, and aided and abetted use, carrying, and possession of firearms, to wit, machine guns that were capable of automatically shooting more than one shot without manually reloading by a single function of the trigger, as well as destructive devices. And then conspiracy. Okay, basically the same fucking thing, but conspiracy. Okay, incredible. If Trump was smart, he would work with the opposition and regime elements, but he wants to be king. Yeah, I don't... Like I said, it's my understanding you've been talking to the opposition before. I don't know where that goal went. But like the fact they didn't do that or continue doing that is, I think, the reason to believe that it's basically it's going to be a nothing burger. Or I don't want to say, like, it's never a nothing burger when we fucking steal another country's president, but it's not going to be, there's probably not going to be any regime change, like at least not meaningfully. There's probably not going to be any like big concession we get, I imagine the new leader, the vice president who's now president, she's going to have to be a little nicer to the US, and it might just be like, let fucking our oil companies drill there, or it might just be let us, you know, do strikes against cartels in your territory, or some shit like that. It's not going to be like that crazy. But yeah, I imagine. You know what? Maybe he will end up in Guantanamo if the charges don't stick. They'll just rush him to Guantanamo and be like, U.S. Constitution doesn't apply here, baby. Okay, we can hold him as long as we want. Get fucked. All right. So maybe he will end up in Guantanamo. Okay. Anyway, I think this is actually about basically this thing. At least tangentially related to it, and Sumner released it like literally while I was preparing for stream. Okay, so we're gonna read it. Maybe that's why he is with Diddy first. Well, yeah, I mean they clearly think, or maybe I would assume they want it to look like more legitimate, and like my understanding is part of the legal justification for it is that it's not really military action, it's like law enforcement activity. And that argument would probably be weakened if you sent him to Guantanamo, which is like a military base, and there's only military courts there, you know, as compared to sending him to New York, where he goes through the sort of more regular legal process. This looks incredible. I am very aware how people think of the terms like neoliberalism and neoconservatism. Neoliberalism, isn't that screwing the poor? Actually, me for real. Neoconservatism, isn't that like the Iraq War? Both terms are widely used as derogatory epithets. I prefer to think of these concepts as policy regimes. For me, neoliberalism is free markets plus social insurance, an economy like Denmark. So there's probably a limit as to how much social insurance you can have and still be neoliberal. And I would think for most people, Denmark kind of passes that limit. But all right. Trump is not a neocon, as this op actually shows. He's definitely not a neocon. I guess I mean, it seems like a decently neocon thing to do. I don't think I don't think the strikes on cartel boats were like that neocon or anything, but like this, I don't know, it's relatively similar to what we fucking did in Panama, right? Like, and that's kind of, I consider that to be probably neocon. For me, neoconservatism is the forceful use of the U.S. military to achieve various nation-building objectives. If you don't like these definitions, that's fine. Go someplace else and comment. I'm not interested in your definition. I get bored debating terminology. I'd rather debate ideas. Okay, so this post is not going to discuss neoliberalism, as I've already done many posts defending that ideology. Instead, I'll use this post to argue that neoconservatism is not necessarily what you think. I don't like neoconservatism, but not for the same reason that most people don't like neoconservatism. Instead, I'll suggest that we need to spend more time thinking in terms of policy regimes and less time focusing on individual examples of neoconservatism in action. If he was a neocon, we would be getting regime change. Oh, sure. I guess I can see that, yeah. But who knows? There's still time, guys. Like I said, nothing ever happens. I don't think anything will happen. Before considering neoconservatism, let's consider a few cases where failing to think in terms of policy regimes leads people astray. 1. Banking regulation. Back in 2008, does he mean back in 2008? We were bombarded with stories about how the banking crisis was caused by deregulation and how the solution was more regulation. I never bought that explanation, but I was in the minority. The truth is that banks were still highly regulated in 2007. More importantly, regulators were pressuring banks to make more high-risk loans to low-income borrowers. In that case, does more regulation mean even more pressure to do high-risk lending? Supporters of bank regulation will respond that they wanted more restrictive regulation, not more regulatory pressure to lend. Monday morning quarterbacking is so easy. They failed to understand that many years ago, when the regulatory system was first set up, there was no set of magic buttons to choose from, one saying good regulation and the other saying bad regulation. When you opt for regulation, you get whatever the political system dictates, and political systems generally have a bias towards easy credit. As Kevin Erdman makes a strong argument that we overcorrected to tight credit after 2008. Although I've read some of Kevin Erdman stuff. I don't know. I don't have strong opinions on exactly how true this is, but I think it does seem to be the case that, like, tightening lending standards at least, you know, slowed down a lot of housing construction. I think he made that case relatively convincingly. Don't believe me? We're now 17 years past a crisis, and our political system is moving back towards an emphasis on easier credit. If you really believe that deregulation caused the 2008 crash, you should probably be predicting another crash. This is especially so because we already have the same unusually high housing prices that we had in 2006. Don't you know? Because we aren't regulating AI. We have massive AI bubble any second now. Gonna pop. The fact that very few people are predicting a crash is a tacit. Well, I don't actually think. I think a lot of people actually are predicting a crash based on AI, but regardless, is a tacit admission that I was probably correct. Deregulation and a housing price bubble did not cause the 2008 recession. Tight money did. I see very few news stories saying Trump is bringing back the banking policies that caused the 2008 crash. But in fairness, people are not predicting a crash based on banking deregulation. So, monetary policy. Monetary policy is one of the best examples of where people think too much in terms of specific actions and too little in terms of policy regimes. Should interest rates have been higher or lower in 2023 is not even a meaningful question. What sort of policy regime are you assuming? In terms of the actual policies being implemented by the Fed, interest rates appear to have been too low during the early 2020s. Policy was too expansionary. But if the Fed had done what it had promised, it had actually implemented a regime of flexible average inflation targeting at 2% inflation. At 2%, then inflation would have been far lower during the early 2020s, and by 2023, interest rates would have been lower than they actually were at the time. Okay, this is really boring because it's just Sumner saying Sumner things. It is Sumner saying Sumner things. I want to read a Sumner post. It's not that long, okay? We'll get to the slop in a second, okay? Where was I? You distracted me. The question, what should a Fed do now, has no meaning except in regard to a well-specified policy regime. People make similar mistakes when they assume that central banks monetize debt with low interest rate policies. If the Fed intends to monetize debt, that means much higher inflation and much higher interest rates. Saying Kevin Hassett is a low interest rate guy is a meaningless statement. Are you saying he's an easy money guy or a tight money guy? If he's an easy money guy, then he's not a low interest rate guy. Biden was an easy money guy, and his policies, including pressure on Powell, what was the pressure Biden put on Powell? I don't think Biden put that much, I'm not aware of any, at least salient and direct pressure Biden put on Powell. Powell, you can watch, there's a funny interview where someone has an interview, he's asking Powell did Trump ever call you and stuff? And he's like, yeah, Trump called me a lot. Did he have that same relationship with Biden? No, Biden never called me. Maybe there's stuff I'm not aware of, but generated higher inflation and sharply rising interest rates in 2022 to 2023. Unless he's just talking about more general fiscal dominance, but that seems very silly to me. In the late 60s, the Fed adopted a series of gestures aimed at creating high employment. Decisions were made year by year with no coherent framework for long-run goals. This discretionary policy led to ever-increasing inflation by the early 1980s. By the early 1980s had driven the economy into a ditch. Ignore the policy regime. Question at your peril. Law enforcement. Okay, this is just Sumner saying Sumner things, but I'm curious about this part. Okay, some people say the government should assassinate suspected drug dealers, a policy pioneered by the Philippines back in the 2010s. Unfortunately, there's no magic assassinate drug dealer button to push. All we have is assassinate suspected drug dealers and don't assassinate suspected drug dealer buttons. America's founders understood this dilemma, instituted a policy regime of trial by jury. To ascertain the guilt or innocence of criminal suspects, they understood that it was dangerous to assassinate suspects on a case-by-case basis, that this was a policy likely to lead to abuse. By the way, America's founders favored completely legal narcotics. They would have been puzzled by calls to assassinate drug dealers. I see two problems with neoconservatism. A, policy intervention might fail. B, even worse, policy actions might succeed, leading to even greater future failures. There's little doubt in my mind that America's success in the two world wars contributed to overconfidence, which led to the fiasco in Vietnam. To be clear, I believe we were forced to fight the Second World War. In the mid-1980s, the U.S. won what used to be called a splendid little war in Grenada. A few years later, we won another splendid little war in Panama, and then in 1991, another in Iraq. Why he's endorsing the Minskiest view of foreign policy? Okay, what is this post-Keynesian nonsense? Okay, the ease at which those victories led to overconfidence in 2003 and the fiasco of the Second Iraq War. Pundits make the mistakes of viewing these actions in isolation, judging each on a cost-benefit basis without reference to the broader policy regime. Policymakers are not looking at two buttons to push, one saying splendid little war and the other saying quagmires. You just place your bets and take your chances. Fortunately, unlike with casino gambling, the events are not independent. Here's a sports analogy that might help. My favorite NBA team recently lost by 1 point to a weak team, and then a few days later defeated a weak team by 1 point. Some sports fans would say, if only we'd won that close game, we now have a 4-game winning streak. They don't understand that games are not independent events. The embarrassing loss motivated the team to try harder so that it would not be embarrassed a second time in a row. Even then, it only won by 1 point. If it had been able to eke out a close win in the previous game, the team likely would have been overconfident and might have lost the follow-up game 2 days later. What's up? Minar is making his MDD modern day debate debut today. Low starts in 28 minutes. Oh boy. Wait, what is he talking about? It's got to be the dumbest shit ever, right? Is it this? He's partnering with Grace Thorpe? Oh my, unbelievable slop. Oh yeah. Is Islam better for one than Western values? Oh my god. Oh, you know, good for him, I guess. Okay. No, this is gonna be far more interesting to me. When's this happening? 7 days from now? Adam versus Rob Noor. I know Adam. We're buddies. I guess I know Rob Noor too. I think we've talked 2 or 3 times, I guess. So, Israel Hamas, who's more in the wrong? Incredible. I didn't even know. Why is Grace Thorpe is she Muslim? I had no clue about that. Okay. Even if people who oppose the Grenada and Panama invasions will often say things like it was a stupid decision, but since we're at war, let's pray for our soldiers to come out ahead. Anything else seems unpatriotic. That's probably been my view in most cases. But in retrospect, what if Grenada and Panama had turned out badly? Might that have discredited neoconservatism, making the Iraq war less likely? I recall that after Vietnam, there was very little appetite to fight another big war. Then we dipped our toes in the water of Grenada and Panama, and it seemed like splendid little wars turned out just fine. Even the first Iraq war, aka the Gulf War, was over surprisingly quickly, and has probably led policymakers to underestimate the difficulties of the second Iraq war. Trump is engaged in military action against Iran, Nigeria, Yemen, Somalia, and Venezuela. He's refused to roll out military action against Colombia, Mexico, and Denmark. Should we be hoping that Trump achieves a lot of little successes, boosting his self-confidence, or do you worry that perhaps Trump already has a tiny bit too much self-confidence? I prefer to think in terms of regimes, such as mutual self-defense alliances like NATO, and not in terms of a series of discretionary gestures that may or may not work out. I feel that the way, even when we have I feel that way even when we have a leader like Bush 41 that is mostly supportive of internationalism, willing to work with our democratic allies. I feel even more strongly about the importance of stable policy regimes when we have a leader who frequently praises Putin and trashes the leaders of democratic countries. A leader who pardons one Latin American leader convicted of drug smuggling while arresting another Latin American leader accused of drug smuggling. I see a lot of very smart pundits offering opinions on individual actions like the recent strikes in Nigeria, Iran, and Venezuela. I see very few pundits offering coherent opinions on what sort of foreign policy regime makes sense for the U.S. And no, always push the right button. It's not a sufficient answer. P.S. I just saw this Bloomberg headline. China's social media hails U.S. Again, no, what's his name? Move as a Taiwan template. I suggest using the same method to reclaim Taiwan in the future. Well, I guess that China was already determined to recapture Taiwan, but this might speed up the timeline. In a world where the other two big powers routinely attack smaller nations, China might face fewer economic sanctions from third countries after Taiwan moved than if it occurred during an otherwise more peaceful period, like late 1990s when international law seemed to mean something. How about if it occurred right after we also just grabbed Greenland from Denmark? How about if public statements by our president made it seem like Venezuela operations were about oil, not about drugs and humanitarian considerations? How does that influence global attitudes towards China? And if the Monroe Doctrine gives the U.S. the right to do as it wishes in Latin America, what rights does China have regarding ethnically Chinese nearby island that is recognized by all but a handful of nations as a part of China? In that case, it's not obvious. I'm not defending China. I'm just questioning the Monroe Doctrine. To paraphrase Tyler, context is underrated. PBS, ironically, over the past month, the net change in drug smuggling in Latin America, Latin American leaders in U.S. custody is 0. This is true, based. Okay. I still don't think Denmark is neoliberal, but I agree, based. Okay, we want the fucking slop now. I guess we're definitely not gonna watch. We're definitely not gonna watch all of the Minar thing, but there's no way they're not even gonna let him back on Modern Day Debate, bro. They're not even. There's no way they're even gonna let him back on. He's gonna be banned. There's no way. There's no unless Minar has done some serious soul searching and taken a lot of chill pills since I last talked to him. They're not even gonna let him back on, bro. Okay, dear Lord, dear YouTube gods, okay, do not take my video down. They would never. Okay, we're skipping. I don't know how much this will watch it. I want to watch the econ section. Maybe the immigrant section. It's such a dumb prompt though. Children are safer with the average illegal immigrant than with Donald Trump. Like, why are we doing this? I don't know if we'll watch the rest of it. I don't know if I care about the other stuff in it. Give me the slop though. Let's go.
My next claim is, despite Trump's claims, the economy is not in a golden age. Got it. Nice to meet you.
I'm Riley.
Nice to meet you, Riley.
So why do you think Trump's economy isn't golden?
I don't think it's in a golden age. I think that he claims almost on a weekly basis that the economy is in a golden age and that we are bringing in trillions of dollars in tariffs, but that's not manifesting in any of the indicators. We can look at 3 in particular.
It's not, first of all, it's not even, I know Adam knows this, but that's not true. Like, he's just lying about the trillions of dollars part.
Unemployment is up since Trump took office. Prices are rising and manufacturing is down. Manufacturing was one of his big claims, but we can dig into any of those.
Yeah, so I would just like to talk about the tariffs first in general. So actually...
Oh, what's up, Venice Willing Kangaroo? Okay, not much we should talk. Okay, how are things going for you, buddy?
When we increase tariffs, it's kind of proven that always at the beginning, inflation rises, there's always a little spike, and then it eventually decreases. We can also...
True. First of all, I think...
Always at the beginning, inflation rises, there's always a little spike and then it eventually decreases.
When she says basically, like, I think she's kind of talking about a real thing there. I don't know if she's actually smart enough to know the semi-valid point she's making, or she's just repeating. She's probably just repeating some bullshit slop that she saw online or whatever. But like, okay, so like, tariffs obviously lead to an increase in the price of imported goods, right? That is like not disputable. Okay, pass-through rates tend to be pretty high, like for like the final retail good that consumers get, right? If there's a tariff on that good, or even just on the materials used to make that good, it tends to be at least 25%, oftentimes more. Depends on how long the tariff lasts, and depends on market power and everything. In terms of just how much do U.S. importers pay, because there's a difference between what like the final price that gets passed on to consumers versus like how much do other countries exporting the good reduce their prices to try to, you know, have people still buy the good despite the tariff being placed on it. Like it tends to be like over 90%, right? I've not seen a good estimate of pass-through that does not find over 90% pass-through in that sense to U.S. importers from tariffs. Now, overall, technically it's not inflation. That is a one-time price increase on certain goods that are being tariffed. Inflation isn't the actual like rate at which the price level is changing. And the like almost kind of semi-valid point that she's making very kind of poorly, and also does not in any way justify tariffs, and in fact kind of makes them worse, is that like, for example, what that San Francisco Fed study found, and people cite this incorrectly all the time a lot, it's also probably not even that great of a study, honestly speaking, it's because they can slow the overall rate, or like growth rate of the economy, and like just slow aggregate demand in general, right? The same way like just about any tax increase they can slow the rate of inflation. But that's indicative of them being bad. It's indicative of them also reducing employment, also reducing investment, also reducing all these, you know, growth, all these things that we care about, that we want to happen. And they do absolutely still increase the price of the goods they're being put on.
We can also see that Trump would do this to eventually, in hopes to, improve domestic manufacturing and self-reliance, because...
True. Ignore what Adam just said about manufacturing not being helped. I don't know what she means by eventually there. I don't know how long the eventually is, but obviously like over half of the goods that are imported to the U.S. are intermediate goods. They're goods that businesses use to make other goods. Many of those are manufacturing companies that rely on imported steel, that rely on imported, you know, parts and factory machines to make the goods that they make. So if you increase the price of all that, yo, what's up, Candace? Non-Don, check. Non-Don, what is it? Unbelievable misspelling. But what's up? Quite obviously, increase that. They're gonna decrease the amounts that they invest, which is why you can look at almost any tariff historically. Right? We have studies on this from Trump's first term. I can pull up Lydia Cox 2023 if you guys do want to hear me repeat the same thing for the 100th time or whatever. Place tariffs on steel. You might help 1,000 steel jobs, but then you hurt 75,000 jobs in downstream manufacturing industries. You can look at the surveys from the Philadelphia Fed, from the New York Fed, from all the regional Feds that have surveys of manufacturers. Right after Liberation Day, there's a big spike in uncertainty. There's a big spike in expected future prices like paid. These are not good. That they pay for inputs, to be clear. That's not good for manufacturing. And if we want to get really deep into it, there are a lot of big issues with, or not issues, there are a lot of big things with information even, because like, you know, simply the process of exporting and interacting with foreign buyers can like transfer information to firms, and that actually will make them more productive and more efficient, and that can actually help manufacturing. And there can be gains from scale as well, being able to export to the rest of the world, to have larger markets. Yeah, all those things. I can pull up the evidence. You guys have seen me pull it up 100 times now. Make tariffs for it just very bad. They're just very bad. They're not even good at the goal of increasing manufacturing, and that's not even like especially important goal unless it's like a national security issue. But the tariffs on intermediate goods, like for example on the machines used to make semiconductors that are being tariffed, that is, you know, not what you want to even make national security better. Because you're harming our ability to like make semiconductors here. That's bad.
Well, we get about 60% of semiconductors and 90%.
Wow. Funny they didn't mention that.
Microchips from Taiwan.
It's like, I'm assuming some of you guys know this, but like the only way you can make like the more advanced semiconductors is by buying machines from ASML, and those are machines that only ASML can make, and like the photolithography, insane fucking sci-fi machines, only ASML can make them, and you have to import them from the Netherlands. And if you stick them over 20% tariff, 10% tariff, and all these companies have to pay 10% more for hundreds of, like, these machines are like literally $200 million. That's gonna be a lot of fucking money to make semiconductors here. It's better just to do what I'm sure Adam is gonna mention with regards to the CHIPS Act and subsidies and that stuff.
They're the leading manufacturer of those in the whole world. And currently they're at war with China. Mm-hmm. And if China takes over Taiwan, then we're in big trouble, right? So I would just kind of like to add that it's really important that and not only do tariffs help us get that self-reliance and create more jobs,
not a net job increase. There's no evidence there's a net job increase. There's literally zero fucking evidence there's a net job increase, bro. I shouldn't say like zero, because you can find people who have defenses of like industrial policy that can involve tariffs, and those might, like, in the long run, if they lead to some types of innovation, which I think the evidence is pretty mixed on that at best, might increase net jobs. But there's no evidence that they actually lead to net job increases, because, you know, if you imagine, like, just say, like, obviously if consumers have to pay more for semiconductors because they're being made in the US, they just have like less money to pay for other goods, and that harms the industries that consumers would otherwise be spending money on. And, you know, like, you can hurt exports as well insofar as you know, appreciate exchange rates. Now, exchange rates are going down right now. The US dollar is depreciating because there's a fuck ton of uncertainty. You know, but that hurts importers, you know.
Also, it can use tariffs to make more money and bring in more money for our country, because to fix the national debt issue that... True.
It's like, it is not a meaningful... I'm sure Adam's going to mention all this stuff, but it's not a meaningful impact on the national debt. You know, I think we've raised under $400 billion in tariffs so far, assuming they don't have to be refunded. And how many people has Trump already promised them to? With you know, we're going to be spending $30 billion on bailing out all the soybean farmers that are affected by the retaliatory tariffs. Like,
Biden's team caused. So.
Yeah, it's like, I think like a 5% VAT is like raises about as much revenue as a 10% universal tariff. It's like, it's crazy.
Start off with the first claim about tariffs reshoring manufacturing. They absolutely can be used to reshore certain industries into the United States, and that's a good point, but that's not how Trump's using them. He placed blanket tariffs on every single country except for Russia and North Korea for some odd effing reason. But then he has been kind of weird about these tariffs. Like, there's no actual concessions that he's trying to get. He placed tariffs on countries that we had free trade with. And then secondly, when you do tariffs, really quickly, when you do tariffs all via executive order, all of his tariffs were via executive order.
What's up, guys? You funny, this guy. You knew all you had to do for your grift was start a Somalian daycare. True, buddy. With the kids, and maybe you would have made enough to move out of your basement.
None of them actually went to Congress or were long-term.
I don't live in Minnesota, unfortunately.
Actual incentivization for countries to reshore manufacturing, because then there's
Can I interrupt
really quickly.
This is true as well, obviously. It's all through executive orders, and we don't even know if the Supreme Court is going to uphold them, much less if the next administration is going to give them around.
There's no continuity into the next administration, right? Can you agree that when you do it all via executive order, the next administration could just, you know, run it all back? So we've seen a decrease in manufacturing investments.
I would like to add that when we see that, employment rates will rise and costs will go down.
No, what's the evidence for that?
We've already... we're not even in his first full through.
He said 90. He's the one that's claiming we're in a golden age and said 90 deals in 90 days.
Also, can I add that when tariffs are added about, like you said, about multiple across all nations in the world, that is like I believe I'm saying the right name, neo-exceptionalism trade policy. So we can have more communication with other countries, and also.
You didn't know there are people being arrested in PA, CA. Well, I don't live in either of those states either, but I've heard the most issues with Minnesota I'm sure there are issues with fraud elsewhere, but the daycare stuff specifically, I've heard, is the big issue in Minnesota.
To just generate more wealth also as well. And,
True. A source, please.
That's not manifesting in any of our manufacturing investment. That wealth is not manifesting for the US people. In fact, this type of tax is regressive. Can you agree that tariffs are paid by the US consumer? Like, can you split with Trump there?
yes, of course, tariffs are paid by the US consumer, but
We did it, guys. One person said
we
it.
can see that when we use tariffs to have domestic manufacturing and to just generate more wealth, we can rely on ourselves and not look to these other countries like we have been for so long. And
That's right, but it's not what Trump's doing. Actually, real private fixed investment into manufacturing structures in the United States went down.
That's I hate I don't even like the rhetorically what Adam's doing is better. Okay, but I'm just infuriated by the by the median voter. Okay, zero sum mindset. It's not even like zero sum, right? Because it's not like oh, all these other countries are ripping us off yet. Although I'm sure she probably also does think that. But like, can we not just like see that there is an opportunity cost to being self-reliant? Is that not almost obvious to you that if we were entirely self-reliant, like just as if you were entirely self-reliant and grew your own food, like there'd just be a big opportunity cost to doing that, and that you could specialize in what you're good at instead? The incelly guy in the video is not being honest. GM did not pass $1.8 billion on tariffs onto their consumers in Q3 2020. But guess who voted this guy? What do you think the pass-through rate for like tariffs is? Do you disagree that the like consumers end up bearing? I mean, it depends on a lot of different things, but like usually over 25% of the tariff. Like at least that's like a relatively low estimate of what you get from like retail goods. Because like we have evidence on this from Trump's first term. We have evidence on this even from tariffs now. You can look at like there's a very famous economist, like, or I don't know if he's famous outside of my circles. There's an economist who's written a lot of papers on inflation and on prices and stuff. His name is Alberto Cavero. Okay, and he has. Yes, because you forgot American companies' tax changes offset any type of tariffs. So what is your evidence that less than 25% of the tariffs are passed on to consumers? Because as I was just explaining, for example, like I can pull up studies that we have on from Trump's first term. I can pull up studies that we have, like I said, from Alberto Cavero, very economist who like specializes in these issues that find pass-through rates of, at least 25% to find like in terms of final consumer goods. His H index is pretty good. No, I don't know. I don't know even by H index. Bruh, wait, what the fuck? Oh, wait, it's filtered. How do I not filter it? Filter. Prices. So, like, for example, this is what I would say. He uses a ton of data from online retailers and stuff. Wait, where's the page? Let me open the page. Okay, regardless. My two largest accounts at my job at Samsung and Best Buy and Amazon are not passing the cost of our products onto their consumers. So you understand, like I know he has a lot of like citations. Like he's a famous economist in like this circle, right? But I'm saying like he's not a famous economist the way like Krugman is a famous economist, right? Like the way even like Keynes or Hayek or whatever, but like he's not like mainstream or whatever. But yeah, like my understanding is he is very well known for this stuff. So that's yeah. you understand this is like, first of all, I know for a fact that Amazon did at least pass some of the cost on to consumers, because like Trump got mad at them for listing how much the prices were increasing because of tariffs. So that's number one, right? Number two, these are two anecdotes. I'm not relying on anecdotes. I'm relying on much stronger data. I'm relying on, I guarantee you, this index here, this is including Amazon, Samsung. This is probably including, like, it might not include, I guess you can buy directly from Samsung. I bet it is including Samsung, but certainly Best Buy and Amazon. Like, and my company has completed it to make their TV and appliances in Texas, which has already started. So, and silly guy. So, regardless of whether you're number one, if your company's relocating stuff to the U.S., presumably it is going to be more expensive still. That's not going to be you passing the cost of tariffs on to consumers, but it's going to be still more expensive than if it was made overseas or whatever, you know. And there's an opportunity cost to doing so. Even if it was the same price, there's an opportunity cost. So the prices are actually the same. The price of the good. So you might not be passing through the added cost of producing in the U.S. You might not be doing that yet. And there are reasons companies don't do that. Like, if you face a reputational cost, for example, to raising prices, you might not want to raise prices. There are a lot of companies that do that. But I would assume the cost of producing the good in the U.S. is more expensive. That's why you weren't doing it before, or at least more expensive when considering the opportunity cost, like the actual economic cost, which includes the opportunity cost as well. You know, like, that is more expensive, and that's going to reduce your after-tax profit essentially, right? And that is going to have negative effects elsewhere in terms of, you know, your company not being able to invest as much, your company not being able to save as much for future investments or whatever. Like, you know, I see your empirical research, but I've considered my anecdotes. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I think that's fine. Like, I believe this only measures, yeah, this is looking at final retail prices at 20%. His earlier work, I think, looks at, it's both final retail prices and, like, the actual just pass through to U.S. importers. But is it like, I haven't seen any, like, reputable paper that finds under 20% pass through to retail prices. And again, we can look at evidence from Trump's first term. Like, I'm pretty sure even in that, like, Lydia Cox study, they find a lot of high pass through. Thoughts in Venezuela. When I talked about this a little at the beginning of the stream, because people were chatting about it as well, but, you know, I think it'll ultimately turn out to be only a little bit more than nothing burger, I imagine. So like, I guess I don't know exactly where I lean on whether or not it was a net benefit to do it. I think it would lean against Americo-fascist imperialism. True. I think I would lean, like, a little bit towards it being a net benefit. I think the, like, strikes in, I think probably the strikes in the drug boats were, like, way worse than this even. I guess it, like, I don't know. It's difficult for me to judge, like, how much of the, how much I should factor in the legality of doing it, because I don't think, on balance, I don't think it was legal even under domestic law. I'm open to being wrong on that, but I don't think it is. But it doesn't seem it doesn't seem clearly more illegal to me than under domestic law, at least, than, like, the actions we took at even, like, Kosovo. And it's like, well, I probably, like, despite that probably being against domestic law, even from my understanding, I could be wrong there too. It's probably still not good that we did that. And considering that's a line that's already been crossed, it's probably even less damage than Trump crossing it now. So I could, like, I think I would lean, like, very, very slightly towards it being that good. But I could totally be wrong in that. And I could also totally be wrong in predicting that ultimately what I think is going to happen is essentially new Venezuelan vice president, she's going to have to make the only thing that's going to really come out of it is she's going to have to make some concession to Trump. That's just going to be like either like our oil companies get to drill there or something, or we get to do strikes against cartels in their territory, or they just sell some oil to us at like good prices or whatever. And it's going to be like not a meaningful deal really. Where the Nike tech is the real crime. That's true. Would expect when Trump said he will take control of Venezuela. Like, I mean, people like Trump. When Trump's not lying, Trump like is speaking in insane hyperbole, right? Like, I think all he means by that is basically what I said. We're gonna get some like we have leverage over them now. I think that's just him being very hyperbolic about us having leverage over them. I think that's really all he means. That's the thing. I don't think he wants anyone from the regime to be in control. That includes VP I mean, I don't think he wants that, like, personally or anything. But like, I would suspect if that was a big deal to him, he would have done something like actually had a deal with the opposition to like take power when he, took I always forget how to pronounce his name, Marjoe and his wife, and they probably would have taken more people if he really wanted to do that. But I think it's more likely that we just want Trump wants to win, and he's gonna be like, oh, I fucking took down all the drug dealer people, yay, look at this insane deal I got, and then not much will change, but we'll see.
Biden actually had a few acts that incentivized, like the CHIPS Act, incentivized the building of chips and semiconductors in the United States, but Trump is tearing up these trade deals and then piecing them back together with tape and signing.
This is true. I honestly don't know. I have literally no fucking clue how good or bad the vice president will be in comparison, which is like why, like, the reason I like lean towards it being that good very slightly is because like he does just seem like a very, very bad dude, but like I have no clue if the new policy will be any different.
His name on it as if he did something when he didn't.
But as we can see with Biden's era of presidency, inflation actually increased, and with Trump's
True. Causal inference is my passion. Let's go.
current president second term, it hasn't decreased, and we actually see as of August.
True. Wait, sorry.
See inflation actually increased, and with Trump's current president second term, it hasn't decreased, and we actually see as of August.
Did she say it hasn't? It sounded like she said it hasn't decreased to me, which is true. It hasn't. Inflation has not really decreased since the end of Biden's term.
Era of presidency, inflation actually increased, and with Trump's current president second term, it hasn't decreased, and we actually.
Freudian slip there. Okay, that is true. It hasn't really decreased. That's nothing to get away of getting copyrighted, but you got to do this because Jubilee has a list of allowed creators. They have like a white list of people who like don't copy strike, and Destiny's on that list, and I'm not.
Actually see as of August, I believe, that median household income has increased $1,000 already, and in its first term, we've seen. You man made it was a pleasure.
That was great.
Incredible. She said since when?
Current president second term, it hasn't decreased, and we actually see as of August, I believe, that median household income has increased $1,000 already, and in its.
So median household income probably did not increase $1,000 in a month, and I don't even think they report it monthly. I think they report it quarterly, so I don't know what. This is reported yearly. I don't even know what she is referring to. She might just be referring to that like meme chart that Trump had. I'm pretty sure there was oh god, when was this? She might be talking about the time that like Trump and like Hassan and whoever like gave a speech at like it was like in the Oval Office, and they had charts, and the charts were like based on proprietary unreleased data. I think she might be talking about that. Trump median household income unreleased data. I think she might be talking about this.
Today they came out, what he puts out gets a lot of coverage, and then we'll go forward to look at it. A lot of times you don't have to do.
Yeah, I think monthly estimates and net changes in real household income. I think she's probably talking about this. This was in August. Yeah, she has to be talking about this. This is just like totally like bullshit. Like it's literally based on, like he literally says like, this is based on like unreleased data.
2 years of the we finally have the 2024 data on what happened with real family income in the United States. And so what I did was I compared the record and Donald Trump's.
I'm going to try to find the actual stuff for this that was actually released, but I don't know. I'm not even aware of them reporting that data monthly, so.
First term, we've seen. You've been animated. It was a pleasure.
That was great. I really enjoyed that. Got you. What's up?
Hi, nice to meet you. Isaiah.
Isaiah.
I want to give you 30 seconds, and I want to give myself 30 seconds just to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so again, there are a few indicators that you can look at, but if Donald Trump is going to claim that we are in a golden age, then we necessarily had to have been in a golden age under the end of Biden's term, because so far, youth unemployment is up 16% since he took office. That's people in this room. Youth unemployment is up. That's not a golden age. Unemployment for Black Americans is up 20% since he took office. That is not a golden age. We can look at inflation over the past, since Liberation Day in April. You can look at inflation and it has gone up. We were actually trending down at the end of Biden's term and as Trump took office, but now it is trending back up. And all of this is for what? No actual reshoring of manufacturing.
Fairness, we were on like a pretty, just bumpy but relatively stable path, like jumping from like 2.1, I think it's the lowest it got, to close to 3%. I think for the past like year of Biden's term. I don't actually think most of that was Biden's fault, especially not near the end of his term. But like, I don't think we would be at 2% inflation if it weren't for Trump still. If Kamala got elected, I don't think we'd be at 2% inflation or anything. I think we would have seen relatively close to the same inflation trend. I think it'd be a little bit lower because there wouldn't be tariffs. Yeah, I don't even know. They don't release this data monthly, as far as I know. None of this data, like this data, is not available monthly. They release real like hourly earnings and like weekly earnings, I think, monthly. But they don't even like. I don't think they. Like, when do they release estimates of like household size? I don't think that comes out monthly. You're right. So I don't know how you would do that.
Not shrink quite yet.
All right, perfect. So to go based on, you want to talk about unemployment?
Any of it, yeah.
So to go based on unemployment, the reason why it's actually higher is because under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, that actually increased the inflation margin significantly, only because it actually.
Okay. First of all, so the reason inflation is higher now, I think this was filmed a little bit ago, so like November of last year, 2025, is because in, what was it, August 2022 or something? August 2022, Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which somehow led to some big increase in inflation, even though it was probably basically neutral in inflation. I don't think it actually reduced inflation, to be clear, but like it was designed to be deficit neutral. And the inflation peaked like right before it was passed. And it would continue. It was on a downward trend after it got passed. I don't think that's because of the IRA. I don't think the IRA caused a downward trend, but it was just on a downward trend after it got passed. But why would that only be affecting things now? And then C, we're on C. I think I'm on C now. Generally speaking, there's the reason it would cause inflation, presumably, is because it would increase deficit spending and increase aggregate demand. Both of those things are things that should also reduce unemployment, generally speaking. Again, generally speaking, if you increase aggregate demand, you're going to increase employment, generally. And generally speaking, if you increase deficit spending, you know, there could be ways to increase deficit spending that don't increase employment, I guess. But generally speaking, that's also going to be stimulus that is also going to increase employment, you know, based on whatever the government is spending money on. You know, that's why people favor deficit spending. Well, it's not the only reason, but part of the reason people favor deficit spending in recessions. They say we want to bring the economy back to full employment by doing expansionary fiscal policy to get people employed, to get people doing shit, okay? And we don't think monetary policy is going to be effective because we're at the zero lower bound, you know, so we're going to do this fiscal expansion. Like, that's... I don't know how we got so many issues there with one sentence, but all right.
Actually did, in fact, increase taxes. It did say it was going to put $1.5 trillion back significantly, only because it actually did, in fact, increase taxes. It did say it was going to...
Hold on. Increase in taxes, again, increasing taxes is probably going to decrease inflation.
The reason why it's actually higher is because under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, that actually increased the inflation margin significantly, only because it actually did, in fact, increase taxes. It did say it was going to put 1.5...
It increased inflation only because it actually did increase... like, I don't know if there's anyone... Does anyone seriously believe that? Like, any serious economist believe that? Inflation reduction was in its name. Easy to debug, true. It's like... There's some, you know, crazy MMTers out there. I believe this. Oh my God. There's some crazy MMTers out there, okay, who believe that interest rates increase inflation, okay, but like... Is there anyone who like seriously believes tax increases generally increase inflation? Crazy MMTers. Let's be nice. I saw your name in the chat and I thought of MMTers. Okay, so I called you crazy, but it's advanced heterodox econ memes. There's no shot. There's no shot. Also, I said serious, okay, not heterodox. I'm being mean.
$1 trillion back into the economy for roads, infrastructure, all that. It didn't actually increase anything necessarily. Actually, that was more so actually given to this.
I am so confused. This guy said like 5 contradictory things.
Economy for roads, infrastructure, all that. It didn't actually increase anything necessarily. Actually, that was more so actually given to the states actually to do with the money as they choose. As far as tariffs go, yes, obviously inflation does increase as well as also a slow growth.
That's not a golden age then.
But as far as that goes, it's actually for a long-term development.
How long?
Long-term development, true.
5 years.
5
but that's
years.
Also an investment to the
Lord
American
have mercy. Is that what the people voted for? I thought they voted for immediate relief.
As far as actually,
That's not even like you're never gonna be able to do this rhetorically in a debate again. But there's not even good reason to believe that the type of tariffs Trump is doing is going to be good, especially like on net. You know, it's definitely not going to be good on net 5 years down the line. But even if you want to like bring manufacturing employment back or whatever, like that might not even be good 5 years down the line still, because again, you're tariffing a bunch of intermediate goods that all these manufacturing companies rely on. So even without the uncertainty effects, it's not clear that it would actually be a net benefit for all manufacturing. It might be a benefit for the subsectors of manufacturing that maybe Trump cares about more, which is like actual, instead of like more high-end manufacturing that's like heavily automated, like just actual like fucking manual labor, relatively low-skill jobs, like maybe, but that's just like, you know, there's a big opportunity cost to the U.S. doing those things.
5 years of...
yeah, don't get me wrong. Egg prices did drop, so did gasoline prices. The only reason why California...
I wonder, why egg prices drop? You know why egg prices dropped? Because we started importing a fuck ton of eggs from Turkey. U.S. egg imports from Turkey. There's a good Financial Times article about it. How imported eggs saved American breakfast. This is probably not the only reason they dropped or anything, but hello. Is that actually why? That is like, it's not gonna be the only reason why or anything, but that is a big reason why, yes. Okay, why is archive just not working? I thought it was just seasonal drop. Well, so part of the reason it might depend on what time of year you're talking about. My understanding is A number, I think both in like 2022 and more recently, like 2024, 2025, part of the reason it increased was supply side issues with like bird flu stuff, and that like does clear up after a while. But part of the reason is also because we imported a fuck ton of eggs from Turkey. Oh, there's a chart in here about that had how many eggs we imported, but it's gone now. What the hell? Then it takes 3 months to get a chick to egg laying age. Okay. I was eating Turkish eggs. Yeah, unbelievable. 2 countries stepped in to the bird flu breach in February, Turkey and Mexico. They exported more than 4 times as many eggs that month as they did the prior year, according to the USDA. There's a chart here that shows it, but it's gone. It's not in this snapshot, I guess. From the USDA's latest weekly egg market report published Friday, with emphasis, overall imports of shell and egg products exploded in February as the domestic market sought relief from reduced production resulting from the persistent outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza in the first 2 months of the year. Overall volume was up 551%, 404% over a year ago. The overall value imports was similarly higher up, 328% for the month and 450% for the year. Imports of table shell eggs increased 478%, with Turkey and Mexico contributing at a 60-40 split. Trump wanted me to sit and wait. Eggs were going to come back down to the reasonable price. Well, true. Yeah, eggs were always going to come back down to a reasonable price. It's kind of ironic that part of the reason they came down in price relatively quickly is because we were able to utilize, free trade and import a lot of eggs from Turkey and Mexico.
Isn't as high is just because of California's regulations. But either way, while he does actually influence the economy through his executive orders, he can't control every single.
Can I ask you, do you think we're in a golden age right now, as Trump claims?
Do I think that we're in a golden age? I think we're actually progressing there.
Okay. Do you think that Trump has brought in the amount of money he claims? He claims it's $18 trillion. He says $17 to $18 trillion based on tariffs.
I do believe so, because as far as the tariffs have actually done, companies have actually started to set up their businesses here in the United States. Yes.
But the problem is
that's not even. It's not really clear what Trump means when he says bringing in 18 quadrillion trillion dollars. I think usually what he means is he got some like investment commitment from other countries as like part of deals, and like that. So the actual 18 trillion number is also just made up. For one, he'll say like even the like propaganda accounts say like over the next 10 years or whatever. Secondly, it's also like just made up. Like I think if you just add up like all the actual investment commitments, even from the quote unquote deals that Trump has gotten, it is not like 18 trillion. It's just not. A lot of that is also probably like investment that would have happened anyways. Like when it, like for example, when we get like a deal quote unquote with the UK. When I say deal, what I really mean is non-legally binding provisional outline of an agreement to negotiate further later. It's like all the deals so far are basically like that. It's like the UK will be like, okay, we'll invest $20 billion in the US or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, last year they invested 18 billion. So it's not to be clear, maybe they would have invested $20 billion this year anyway, right? It's crazy. It's obviously bullshit. That's almost literally like half of our GDP, 18 trillion. I think our GDP is like 34 trillion or something. Oh no, we're only at 30. I thought we were more than that. We're 30 trillion nominal GDP. So this is 28 trillion for 2024. We're not taking in 60% of our GDP in tariff revenue or even investment over the next 5 years even. Is that Kai Swimmer again? Yep.
Okay, a few things. Number one, there was a CNBC article that came out just yesterday where they interviewed 12 business owners, and all of them said that the tariffs have impacted them so negatively that they've had to reduce the amount of people that employ them. They've had to slow down their growth. And when it comes
Okay, I love Adam. And maybe this is more rhetorically effective, but like what if instead of 12 business owners, we had, by being interviewed by CNBC, what if we had like the Federal Reserve did this survey? Did I ever tell you how I met Guy's parents? No, you didn't. Based. I can't stand the guys that talk exactly like Nick Fuentes. Yeah. But well, you're watching someone who talks exactly like Destiny. Okay, so what does it say about you, really? But yeah, I'm very curious, Charsky.
Comes to the $18 trillion that Trump is claiming, they're just inflated numbers that Trump seems to be lying about. And my entire point is,
Yes.
when unemployment
It's not even. It seems to be lying about, really, bro. Seems to be lying about. Chill, Mormons. I know he's Mormon. I met at a Mormon church a few years ago. Oh, he can paste. I guess there's not many. Are you raised Mormon or whatever? I didn't know that. If you were anything, or you just happen to be in a Mormon church thing, at a Mormon church thing. I know he's Mormon because he doesn't like when people swear. I grew up Mormon, yeah.
for young Americans, for Black
It's
Americans, is
generally
going up. Yeah, it's higher.
Especially because we actually outsource our employment from other
It's gonna be pretty funny when Trump does all these regime changes and they actually work. There's been no regime change. I don't expect them to work particularly well if he does do them, but
countries as well, which actually
Unemployment for young Americans, for Black
It's
Americans, is
generally
going
higher.
up. Yeah, it's higher.
especially because we actually outsource our employment from other countries as well, which actually will be brought back to the United States when they actually.
Yeah, pal. It's not even that clear that that's actually that true in the first place, because automation had a lot to do with shit too. Okay. And there's endogeneity and Arthur Dorn Hansen. Okay, how many times do I have to say these things? It's like what's up, 70 Ghosts? Welcome to the stream.
When? 5 years?
Like I said, it's an investment. You have to also give it time for the economy to actually heal. This
we were
isn't an
actually
immediate impact.
we were already healing. We were at a pretty good pace. The stock
If it's a good investment, why weren't companies making it before? If it was like a good profitable investment. Now maybe you think, oh, this sort of, there's some externality with like community or with, fucking jobs for low skill people. That's like worth, the opportunity cost of having this manufacturing here or whatever, when our resources could be doing something more productive. Like I think that's more your burden. What do you think of the Venezuelan arrest? I mean, I was talking about it a bit earlier. I don't know. Like, I'll probably lean like very slightly towards it being net positive, but that might. I'm not confident. It was legal even under domestic law, and that might shift my opinion a bit if I got more confident that it was legal under domestic law. And I think it could end up poorly, obviously, the more we intervene in Venezuela. But if what comes out of it is simply almost a nothing burger of a deal, where it's just like, well, we got rid of this kind of evil guy, and if the vice president is a little bit nicer, and then we get some concession from them, that's just like they sell us a little bit of oil, like that'd probably be net good, probably. But I don't know. I'm not confident on that. Incorrect? Oh no.
market was hitting all-time highs. Then when Trump announced the Liberation Day tariffs, it dropped, and it took months for it to return to those all-time highs. It took months.
What do you say, the stock market thing?
5 years.
Like I said, it's an investment. You have to also give it time for the economy to actually heal. This
We were
isn't an immediate impact.
already healing. We were at a pretty good pace. The stock market was hitting all-time highs. Then when Trump announced the Liberation Day tariffs, it dropped, and it took months for it to return to those all-time highs. It took months. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
That's true, but also, and rhetorically, you probably don't want, maybe don't want to say this or whatever, but like, obviously, you should look at the actual good, like, causal evidence that we have, and there is some. Like, you can look at the evidence from Trump's first term. There is a study that finds that, like, tariff announcements reduce stock prices, like they try to estimate the aggregate welfare loss for the U.S. based off of that. I think they find it's like a 3% aggregate welfare loss or whatever for the U.S. based on for the 2018 trade war, based on how stocks responded to tariff announcements. There's I think there's one study from the more recent Liberation Day tariffs, but I don't think it actually does that much. I think it just looks at forget exactly what it does. It's just I think it tries to associate just like how exposed a company was to tariffs, and then how much their stock price went down, and like tries to estimate how much, like what percentage, I mean basically the elasticity of stock prices to the tariff rate.
That's great.
There's got to be a better term. I guess it kind of is elasticity, but people don't usually say elasticity when they're talking about asset prices, I guess. But
Matt, nice meeting you.
I'm Adam. Nice to meet you.
First of all, when Trump says golden age, he means golden age, which is a set of time period. It doesn't happen. It's not golden day, golden year, golden 3 months. There's no time stamp or time limit on the golden age. So it's an idea that America is going to be entered into a time period, a time age, and hopefully sooner than later.
It's not the age part I have a problem with. It's the golden part I have a problem
So
with.
why don't you think we're heading into a golden age?
I don't think we're in a golden age, as Trump claims, for the few reasons that I've stated. I mean, the economy is just not bearing that. People
Why
in our
don't you think
generation
we're
are
going
struggling.
into a golden age?
Wait, what? Why?
So not why you don't think we're in a golden age.
Wait.
Why do you think we're not going into a golden age?
Oh,
That was
because
your
the
plan.
indicators are slowing down since Trump took office. If you want to say that we're in a golden age now, then we were in a golden age under Biden. As Biden left office, the economy was recovering. I know that he had a rocky 4 years. I know there were a lot of extrinsic factors such as COVID, the Ukraine war, and some policies that Biden passed. I can easily concede that. But by the end of Biden's term, the economy was starting to stick the landing, and Trump immediately screwed it up by doing these Liberation Day tariffs, combined with the big, ugly, beautiful bill or whatever, which will not only strip Medicaid and Social Security nets away from the lowest income earners or people that need it the most, but it also provides permanent tax cuts to the richest of the rich.
So in terms of the economy, because the Medicaid is a whole different argument. So let's not talk about Medicaid.
Well, it does feed into it.
Let's talk about the economy. So in terms of the economy,
Medicaid feeds into the
so in terms
economy
of sure, but we're talking about specifically the economy, and I think we brought up tariffs, and I think so let's stick to that further.
Well, really quickly, when people don't have social safety nets, they have to start digging into their savings and taking out.
I don't think I think he made it a little bit of a harder, made fraud a little bit less
just fraud.
prevalent to happen. In
Sorry, you can make your.
But let's talk about tariffs real quick, because there's two arguments to the tariffs. There's the national security part of tariffs, and then there's
oh my god.
You wanna go for it?
So let's go for national security. So it's,
Hold on, what's the second one he said?
there's two arguments to the tariffs. There's the national security part of tariffs, and then there's the wealth of America tariffs.
Which one? You want to go for it?
The wealth of America, true. Is it this? Oh, what's up, South Welcome back. Get in, bitches. It's golden age time, apparently. This guy seems better than the other two people. Okay, I'll try to reach out to the people I can, but we'll see. No, this is not what I'm looking for. Never mind.
So let's go for it now.
Like none of the national security shit, bro. Like if Trump, like even in the deals, okay, the non-legally binding agreements, concepts of a deal that Trump has gotten, he's still leaving like 10% tariffs up on all products from Vietnam. Is it really plausible that all products from Vietnam are at like our national security is really helped by putting a 10% tariff on them? Really? Or is it more plausible that Trump is just a fucking mercantilist, that Trump just doesn't really know what trade deficits are, that Trump wants to look good in the media, so he wants to get deals, he wants like this, victory or whatever? Like which one? Like really? Like let's employ some Bayesian analysis here, okay? Like I'm a dog. Hi, do you think that we will this year see Fuentes be exposed for being into guys? Hasn't he already? What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? Don't you know the Destiny files? Aren't they all out there? Okay, all the DMs. I don't know. I mean, I doubt anything new would come out, but
National security. So it's in the best interest that our number one adversary is responsible for the majority of vital things that we need. So, for example, vitamin C is produced almost, I think, 90+%
then why wouldn't you
in China, which China would be an adversary.
Why wouldn't you either just tariff that, and I think there's reasonable arguments that put in your bingo card that tariffs there would probably not even, at least tariffs alone would not even be the optimal thing to do, and probably better just to do some type of subsidy for vitamin C makers. If you really think vitamin C is a very important strategic good, and we need to have some reserve of it here, which I mean, I guess it probably has a decent amount of medical use, right? So maybe it is, but
steel is produced in large quantities in China.
Oh my God, it's not even like China is not even. I don't believe they're even in 2018 they were top 10 country that we were importing steel from. We get most of our steel from like Canada, Mexico, and like South Korea. It's not even, and like why in that case would you? Why would you put tariffs on all steel? Why are you not okay with getting steel from our allies like Japan, South Korea, and stuff? Do you want to isolate us from our allies? Probably make them more warm to China if we're not buying their fucking steel, if we're putting a ton of tariffs on them, right? I think I have a list here. Our strategic vitamin C reserves must be protected at all costs. Apparently, maybe we don't have a list here, but it's like, I mean, I'm gonna look it up. I don't think China, like, let's just look up 2018 or 2017 before any of the tariffs were even announced. U.S. steel imports by country. I think China's not even top 5. They're not even like top 10 now. This is 2018. I mean, this is just a status to chart. I don't know how great this is, but China's number like 9 here or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is their number 11 here? They're not even on this chart. Like, bruh. Not even on this.
The military heavily relies on for military and private people as well, rely on drone parts for industry or whatever. That's also made in China. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think?
I think the drone thing I can see being an issue. I think like, again, there are arguments that tariffs are never really the best policy. Even it's like you don't even information is very important for. For even like national security purposes. Like you don't even want to like tariff a bunch of countries and like isolate yourself from their technology because it doesn't let you reverse engineer their technology. Like that is an actual like national security issue on the other side too. But like that doesn't seem to be what's going on in Trump's mind. First of all, most of the tariffs are just absolutely not justified national security. And insofar as they damage our relationship with our allies, they're probably actively harming it to some extent or damage how large the export market can be. And the export market is very important for, U.S. manufacturers even. That's bad as well. Why wouldn't we just do subsidies?
I think it's going towards golden age,
or at least pair of subsidies,
to get America less dependent on our adversaries who in theory hate us and have been pooling military advantage.
Why are we tariffing all the intermediate goods that the drone companies probably need to make this fucking drones here and shit? Like,
to threaten our
what you're saying is true. What you're saying
but
is
is that going into the golden age
that is
of
not
America?
what Trump is doing. So just to say,
that exactly is what Trump.
What's up, Ness?
No, it is not at all.
So
really quickly, really
tariffs.
quickly. You just said a lot of things. Really quickly, you're pointing out a good thing.
Sure.
During COVID, a lot of our supply chain flaws were exposed heavily. We relied on other countries for certain technologies and certain masks, and I think everyone realized, oh shit, wait a minute, our supply chains are really just in other countries. We need to reshore some stuff. But when it comes to Trump's tariffs on China, can you name me any indicators that bear that we have reshored? What is it? You were saying steel, reshored, any sort of this technology.
Well, the idea that we have $7 trillion, I think it's almost at $7 trillion.
I just debunked that number.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not 7 trillion.
So there's almost 7.
Where does the 7 trillion come from? Then? Name a few countries.
So I haven't even listed what the 7 trillion is about.
Okay.
So
sorry.
So
I have a Twitch turbo head blocking your face. That's probably good.
6 trillion, maybe almost
6 trillion.
So
No, 6
it's around 6 trillion.
Okay,
and
it's about 5.
800.
It's about 5
So
trillion.
it's depending on where you get your data, you can 6, 7, whatever.
6, 7. I say 6, 7.
So my point is.
Oh my God! Everyone noticed it too. Let's go. How is this where we're at? This guy sounded like semi reasonable when he first sat down, and now we're talking about whether tariffs have raised $7 trillion or gotten $7 trillion in investment.
You won it. You just won right there. Sorry.
There you go.
It's not even plausible.
You talk about manufacturing going down, and it takes about, because I work in government, it takes about like 2.
Also, it's not even. It's fucking. But by the way, you can read like the DoD reports, and like they don't even say that like it's that big of an issue. I think I have it in here or whatever. It's like. The last 2 DoD reports in the U.S. defense industrial base concluded it is profitable and expanding overall. It's like, it's not even, the DoD doesn't actually think this is like a big issue. Like, what are we doing? Sorry. The DOW, okay, Department of War. Okay, my bad. Department of War now, guys. bruh. And it's obviously, maybe the type of manufacturing has shifted. Mockler's also retarded on tariffs, also 6-7. I think he's doing what is rhetorically effective and stuff. And I don't think he's retarded, but I think you have to maximize for the normie level stuff in these type of debates. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating to me. Yeah, obviously maybe the type of manufacturing has shifted to non defense related industries. That's plausible, but you know, industrial production went up like all the way up until 2008, right? Like it was Google Fred US industrial production. Nice one, Ness. It's like what is this line going all the way up until 2008? And it's stagnated since then because manufacturing productivity has been stagnant since then. And manufacturing by value added as a percentage of GDP has actually still been going up. Not actually, that's probably like that number is probably not super relevant to the defense stuff, but it's just indicative that like a lot of the decline or whatever, it's not a decline in output or anything, it's just a decline in labor because we've automated a lot of stuff, which actually increases our output.
2 years, at least in California, to even go from groundbreaking to ribbon cutting.
Well,
so I mean, in terms of manufacturing going down, the way you look at manufacturing, what's promised, what's been promised to be reinvested into America. So that's my first entire.
Do you think companies have any incentive to reshore manufacturing long term when these are all done by executive order and not actual binding trade deals gone through courts?
Well, I think the idea
What happened to torque break? I probably have it off just because it's annoying to trigger because the Stream Deck thing I have is unreliable. I should buy a real Stream Deck and I can probably make it more reliable because the web socket is the fucking thing that breaks a lot. But here we go. We got torque break. Incredible.
Trump's tariff policy is to impact the future economic.
But we're not seeing that investment into the future.
So whether they see the promise or not, they've promised almost $7 trillion into the economy. So in terms of that, I think it's a good idea that China is no longer holding us hostage.
What's up, Jack? What a way to start the year, am I right? Not fun. Yeah.
Second to the national intelligence is that the fact that we are in an almost $1 trillion trade deficit, which deficits when you import more than you export, which is not a good thing. Would you say?
Source? What's the source for that one, please? That number is, I think, like basically correct. I think our deficit is trade deficit is like 3% of GDP or whatever. But like, sorry, that's not a good thing. Why? Elaborate.
China is no $1 trillion into.
I mean, I got kicked out, but
to the second to the national intelligence is that the fact. Would you say that?
You can animate it by the majority.
Okay.
That was great. That was fun. So,
Hi, it's good to meet you.
Great.
Why are you showing their videos? Aren't they like super bitchy about their videos? Well, that's why I have it. You'll notice I have it mirrored, and I have a little annoying filter over it. But yeah, they are oftentimes.
To meet you.
Martin, nice to meet you.
Martin, I'm Adam.
Perfect. So what I want to talk about is, because we already established, kind of the golden age is a wide range of time.
Sure.
More so
Is that enough? Sometimes.
talking about
The
time
golden
period.
part.
Well, yeah, I'm saying for the age, we're talking about this entire Trump presidency and
Really
really
think we're in a
after
golden age, like he
that.
claims?
I think we're entering one, and I think that
So what indicator is
Yeah,
that?
so what I want to talk about is more so instead of
indicator
kind of moving
showing
off
that
of the
we're entering a
tariffs,
golden age?
talking about the biggest aspect of the Trump's economic presidency, which is the one big beautiful bill.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I assume you're against the one big beautiful bill, correct?
Yeah, certain parts of it, for sure.
Okay, for sure. So I think the biggest part of it is the extension of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Are you pro or against that?
I mean, that's fine, but it depends on the context around it. So what
Well, I mean, that's not even. This shouldn't even be. I don't even know if you can see that much. I don't think that's. I think that's fine in the context we're in now. I like. Listen, I don't even like corporate taxes or anything, bro. And you know what? I like that they have full expensing for stuff. The full expensing for investment to school. But I don't think you can see this much. I was hoping an Asian guy was liberal because he's kind of hot. No, they're all going to MAGA except for this guy.
Donald Trump did is permanently extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act tax cuts, and that disproportionately benefits the richest of the rich. But at the same time,
Okay, but
like I said, at the same time, he cut social safety nets for people at the very, very bottom. And you know what the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act says? Wait, really quickly, if you look it up, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act over the next few years will lead to hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of children losing free lunch at schools, while it also allows billionaires. It also allows billionaires to now write off private jets. Now, none of us in this room benefit from having a private jet,
let's
right?
touch on that. So let's touch on the first part. You said that most of the tax cuts are concentrated, within the top 20.
Disproportionately, I wouldn't say most. Yeah.
Well, sure. So 60% of the tax, so 60% of income earners actually do get tax cuts under the one big beautiful bill, under the extent of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, specifically the median.
That's not contrary to his claim. The fact that most people get tax cuts does not change the fact that his claim is that it's going to disproportionately benefit the rich in that, like, they're going to see a bigger decrease in their effective tax rate. What's up, Bass Guitar? Welcome back. Fair use reacting to Jubilee video should be it should be a Jubilee debate. I mean, technically, some of my content, most of the Jubilee content definitely falls into fair use, bro. Okay. There might be sometimes I'm a lazy reactor, but this definitely is criticism in review. Okay, and it's transformative because I'm awesome. So this should be fair use, but they don't really care.
So sure. So 60% of the tax, so 60% of income earners actually do get tax cuts under the One Big Beautiful Bill, under the Extension of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Specifically, the median American family would have seen a tax hike of $1,800 a year should the Tax Cuts and
And I'm
Jobs
glad
Act.
they extended that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I don't think even, well, I don't know if you could ever politically make this viable. That's why Kamala Harris said, "Oh, extend it for people making under 400K a year or whatever." But like, can I fully expense all my bitches and hoes? And unfortunately, I don't think they let you do that. Lazy reacting is inherently reacting. Yeah, but it's like a you can't like just react to stuff. Like, it has to be transformative, and it has to fall under some type of like criticism in review. Like what Adam is talking about is, I think this, yeah. And like, I don't know how much stock I place in these exact estimates, to be clear. But like, this is from the CBO. I think they're looking at the distributional effects. And like, even if most people get like, net tax reduction or whatever, you can, like, the point is, the people who get the highest reduction are people at the highest income percentile. Then I think, is this including, as a percentage of income? Like, most people here, all but the bottom two deciles, is this looking at? Yeah. But the bottom 20% of people get a net decrease, it looks like, but it's just the same thing on their website. And then Penn Wharton has their estimate, which I think is roughly I think it's a little bit more extreme even. Oh, well, I have the chart here. Like, oh, this is just in absolute numbers, and that's a little silly, but you can still see most people technically get a tax cut except for the bottom two deciles, but it doesn't change the fact that the biggest impact is for the evil rich. Please tax Amerifats more. I mean, I want, like, yeah, I think we should probably be taxing, people more than the 2017 rates were. I think is probably good to let those expire, even for basically middle class people. But
like I said, the context matters. We're extending that. We are removing social safety nets and allowing billionaires to write off private jets. Listen, people in this room will benefit a lot more from like kids getting free lunches than writing off private jets. I don't see anyone in this room.
Social safety net part, though. So the best example the left always brings up is cuts to Medicaid. The actual most prominent cut that we made to Medicaid was instituting work requirements of 20 hours.
Oh my God!
It kicked 18,000 people off of their Medicaid.
Yeah. True. Okay, we got the response locked and loaded. Let's go. Adam Mockler might go.
I would say that if someone isn't working, then they shouldn't be getting health care.
But these were 18,000 people who
There's people who were eligible. They just didn't keep up the paperwork.
Barriers to get Medicaid. And what happens is these people who are vulnerable already.
The barriers of seeking a job.
No, it's not just that. It kicks people off because the barriers become so hard. People with jobs can still get it. But the problem is, listen.
What are the barriers that are so hard?
The problem is when it comes to this, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, with that, the barriers for Medicaid, sorry, one second.
No, okay, so it's like, you said barriers. What are the barriers that are so hard besides getting a job where you have to go work 20 hours a week? There's already a qualification.
It's keeping up all the paperwork and the bureaucratic, the bureaucratic process of applying and reapplying every, it's like 6 months or a year or something. People are just bad at doing that. And we have evidence of that from Arkansas, like you mentioned. There's evidence from another state that I'm struggling to remember right now. It was like Mississippi or Missouri. I think it was Mississippi. There's evidence from changes to eligibility requirements for Medicaid under COVID. It's like 70% of the people who were removed from Medicaid during COVID when the eligibility rules changed were not people who were actually disqualified by the new rules. They were just people who didn't give up with the fucking paperwork. They just didn't respond to the shit in the mail. They didn't reapply soon enough. They didn't you know, they made some error in their paperwork.
In there that if you're disabled, then that doesn't apply to you. I mean, what are these barriers? The left always speaks in these like just abstracts. Like that's actually like what are the barriers?
The increased barriers are when people are vulnerable and already working part-time, and then you cut them off of Medicaid. Yes, people can get Medicaid with this, but the problem is when 18,000 people, like in Arkansas, are kicked off of their Medicaid.
Part-time.
No, the 18,000 people were kicked off of their Medicaid because they couldn't get access to it. What happens then is that they have to dig into their social safety, they have to dig into their.
So how they not get access then?
Because
I don't know why Adam is. He should be clear. These were people who were otherwise eligible for Medicaid, and also there was no actual like increase in employment. Like it didn't seem like the change even increased employment in Medicaid recipients.
Barriers are increased.
What are the barriers? The only barrier you listed, the only barrier we talked about is work requirements, and that's working 20 hours a week.
Yeah, but it's the work requirements increasing is just it's not. So wait, can you concede?
So we agree, work requirements are a good thing. We can find common ground.
Can you concede that what the tax cuts and wait, listen, can you concede that what the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act does is it permanently decreases taxes for the richest of the rich, but then it also but it also temporarily gives no tax on tips. Do you know that part?
Yeah, no tax on tips.
But that's only temporary. So
no tax on tips is silly.
It's like waiting.
But regardless.
Okay, wait a minute.
Which is the reason why the original program had an expiration date.
Wait, let me bring this back. So the permanent tax cuts for the richest of the rich don't have an expiration date. Wait,
because we already did that. We already had the program.
They don't have an expiration date, but you have an expiration date for the things that are going to help them. Why is there an expiration date for the people who are the most vulnerable?
It's a trial program, and the tax cuts were.
Has anyone given that justification? I don't think anyone claims that. I don't think anyone, even in administration, says, "Oh, the reason that we have no tax on tips and the Social Security deduction expiring is because these are trial programs. We've already tried the corporate tax cuts, so we can just make them permanent." Like, what? Huh? I don't think anyone claims that. That feels entirely post hoc. Like
everyone were made permanent. Like, I mean,
the corporate tax rate was permanent. Yeah, that's what he said. But he's saying, "Oh, we made those permanent because they're not a trial anymore."
Why would you not make the tax cuts permanent? You know when they end? They end right as Trump's leaving office. So is this what it's like? It's like waving a $100 bill in front of somebody's eyes while giving thousands of dollars.
Okay, real quick. So you know the early part. Can you concede again that work requirements are good thing in Medicaid?
Sure. Yeah.
Right, perfect. Awesome. So you support Donald Trump on that?
No,
great to know.
I don't. Listen, when you sat down, I said the context matters. The context of permanent tax cuts. Wait, do you?
Actually, so let me ask you.
If you could have it your way, would the no tax on tips be permanent or?
If it works out, then I want to make it permanent, which it will.
If you had it your way, would the no tax on tips be permanent now in the big beautiful bill, or do you think that them expiring right as Trump leaves office is a good thing?
I want to make sure that they work and then make them permanent. I want to make sure that we don't need to expand it. I want to actually have a sound public policy.
Why do you think Trump made them not permanent?
I've already said this 3 times. Because when you ever have a new program, you need to try out. You have a trial period, which is why the 2017 TCJA.
Like I said, I don't think anyone gives a justification. I've never seen anyone publicly give a justification. I doubt that. Like it feels like something he came up with. Honestly, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's pulling this from somewhere, but it doesn't seem like it. Also, a side note: the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act increased the lower corporate tax rate from 15 to 21%. Did it? I thought it was I don't know. It did that, but I know Biden had a stupid. Oh, thanks, Nicholas Portero, for the follow on Twitch. Incredible. I know Biden did its like minimum corporate tax, and I think that was like 21%, wasn't it?
Had a cutoff time. So let's talk about, you bring up taxes on the richest Americans. Yeah. So I assume you're opposed to the Trump tariffs.
The Trump tariffs, yeah.
Okay, why?
The Trump tariffs for a few reasons.
Or just tariffs in general. Why are you opposed to tariffs?
I'm not opposed to tariffs in general. As I've said, there are ways
cringe.
to do targeted tariffs, but when Donald Trump got into office, he placed tariff on every single country except for North Korea and Russia. I find that pretty weird. But listen, I want to ask you, after 9 months of going through this tariff stuff,
so we're talking about cutting taxes for the rich Americans and all Americans. The reason why that's actually a good thing is because you want people investing more money, especially right now when we're seeing an AI revolution, which is about to make our country exponentially.
You understand that? Let me make this point. I gotta make this point.
Republicans and President Trump.
I gotta make this point.
But like you can just, and the bill did have full expensing in it, and I like the full expensing. And I'm not a fan. I don't think we would have corporate tax ideally. Like I want progressive consumption tax. I want a DBCFT. Like I want my fancy acronyms. But like, one, you should weigh that against the deficit that we have. You should be concerned about that. Presumably, that's going to have some negative effect on growth as well as it might have some effect on raising interest rates. Might have some effect on crowding out. Like. Should probably weigh it against that, and like if you're concerned it's just a like investment thing, like that is in large part solved by full expensing, and the bill did have full expensing, which lets you, if you don't immediately deduct the investment that you do for. I think the big beautiful bill had full expensing for most things. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I think, had full expensing like just for some like research and development stuff, but I'm pretty sure the big beautiful bill has full expensing for like most. investment that you can make.
Not going to grow the
I gotta make
deficit.
this point. Tariffs are a regressive tax on the people who earn the lowest. Well, so right now,
all a tariff is a sales tax. That's literally all
it
it
is.
is.
Okay,
It's a sales tax.
and listen,
It's not a sales tax. It doesn't just tax consumption, the final goods. It taxes inputs and capital goods that companies import.
goods.
listen, low-income earners.
It only applies to imported goods, obviously. So you're distorting decisions over where people buy goods, right? Like a sales tax that just applies evenly. People might buy less goods overall because they're more expensive, but you're not distorting like the relative basket of imported versus domestic goods that they buy. The half the point of a tariff is to distort the basket of domestic versus imported goods they buy. That's just not efficient.
Necessarily spend more of their income on consumption, right? So when you're spending more of your income on consumer goods, you are going to be hit by these taxes harder. Meanwhile, the richest of the rich are getting tax cuts, are getting all of
Everyone's
this.
getting taxed.
The richest of the rich are disproportionately benefiting from this.
See,
So
even leftists tax
can you concede
that the 2017 Tax and Jobs Act being extended will put more money
can you
into the families
concede that
and working
lower
families that tariffs
income
will take out?
No,
Oh my God. I don't know for sure if that's true. Well, that might be true, but you should also consider the Medicaid benefits and like SNAP benefits. Many of them are losing, right? That's going to reduce their after taxing, post-tax and transfer income. And that is probably going to be net negative for the bottom two deciles, the bottom 20%. According to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, while high-income earners, top 1% and top 20%, may see their net gains because their tax savings are substantial enough to offset their higher prices, middle and lower-income families are projected to face a net financial loss of over $1,000 annually. Thanks for the fact check, Sam. Fact check.
no, that's not true.
Yes, that absolutely
Can you
is true.
concede that lower income earners are disproportionately benefited by the regressive tariffs?
One more time.
So lower income earners necessarily spend a
When we
larger.
bring jobs back, they're going to be disproportionate.
When are they going to bring jobs back? Jobs have been.
Doesn't increase net jobs. There's no good reason to believe it increases net jobs.
Tariffs take a while to kick into effect. You need to have trade deals. You need to have the tariffs actually raise
How many
prices
trade
on
deals do
foreign
we
goods. We don't.
Isn't that? It's a trade deal. What's the trade deal gonna do? I guess bring investment that's gonna bring in a bunch of jobs. Let me inform you of something called the capital account surplus. Okay. There's actually a lot of investment in the U.S. already. It actually comes in the form of something y'all don't seem to like, which is a capital account surplus, which is also equal to the trade deficit with the opposite sign.
Done with the UK. We've done some with the EU. We're working on some with India.
Are these
China.
actually papered up?
I mean, it takes more than 3 months to negotiate a massive trade deal.
Donald Trump said 90 deals in 90 days. What do you mean it takes more than 3 months?
Of course he's going to have it something like that.
Time out.
You got me. That was a good one. That was really good.
Thank you.
Incredible.
My next claim is children
Okay, I think we'll watch some of this one at least.
are safer with the average illegal immigrant than with Donald Trump.
I know they want to make the fucking prompts controversial, but can't we just do something like deportations are authoritarian, or Trump is hiding the Epstein files to protect it? Can't we just do something like that, bro? What are we doing here, bro?
Hi, Angela.
Nice to meet you. I'm Adam.
I would actually like to hear what you have to say about it.
That'd be great. So when you look at the statistics, there's a study done by PNAS in Texas that shows that undocumented immigrants are 2 times less likely to commit violent.
Well, they are if they're
2 times
undocumented.
less likely to commit crimes than native-born citizens, 2.5 times less likely to commit property or drug crimes than native-born citizens, 4 times less likely to commit property crimes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has been held liable for sexual assault. Donald Trump has had 34 felonies. Donald Trump is best friends with prolific sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. So,
I just have a few questions for you. So, I would really like to know how come 60% of them that come in commit a crime, or they have the intention to commit a crime?
To me, Nicholas Maduro looks like Dr. Disrespect. Now, a lot of people have noticed that he does look like Dr. Disrespect in the photo of him in the Nike fleece in the helicopter.
that is not true.
That is true.
What's your study?
I believe it was in 2 articles I learned in my college
Wait,
class.
do you think
So,
who do you think commits more crimes?
Incredible.
The average U.S. citizen or the average undocumented immigrant? I mean,
well, they're
violent
undocumented,
crimes.
so we wouldn't know.
Violent crimes.
We
Well,
actually wouldn't know who
would
they are, and we have no idea who these people are coming into our country.
Texas
We have
did
no
a
idea.
comprehensive study.
But there's no background check on them. They don't exist in this country, so we have no idea who they are.
They do. So
they
the
don't, though.
burden of proof
They don't.
would be on
They're
you.
just allowed to come in here.
Let
Do
me
you
say.
understand what sanctuary cities are?
Of
They're allowed to
course.
just come in here and they get everything for free.
Okay, can I ask you a
So-
question?
True. That's what sanctuary cities are. That's places where immigrants just go to and get everything for free.
Sure.
So
That's what if you look up sanctuary city, that's the definition. That's provided. That's crazy.
just imagine you had a daughter. Let's run a thought experiment. You had a daughter, and you're about to bring her over to her friend's house. As you're driving your daughter over to her friend's house, you learn at the last minute that her father had not only been sexually assaulted or civilly liable for sexual abuse. Her father also at the same time. Sorry, let me restart that. 1 second. Imagine you're taking your daughter over to her friend's house, and as you're going over there,
Why they keep that
learned
in?
that her friend's father
Making my boy
had
look
been
bad.
absolutely liable to sexual abuse. He was best friends with prolific sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, and it said that he could just walk in on girls in dressing rooms like he did in the Howard Stern show. Would you let your daughter go over to that person's house?
The chances would be actually the same because I wouldn't know who these people are. They're documented.
Well, no.
They
Would you
they
bring your
have
daughter
no
over to that
identity.
person's house?
I don't think so.
Okay,
but
because that
but
describes
I would
Donald
never,
Trump
but I
perfectly.
would never bring my daughter to a house that I don't even know who the parents are. I don't know where they come from. I don't know where
The
they're
average
from. I also don't know
undocumented
why they were
immigrant
brought
commits
here.
lower crimes than
No,
Donald Trump.
There's no statistics on that
Donald
because
Trump.
they're undocumented.
There are statistics on
but
this.
they're
The study
undocumented.
from
Where are they
PNAS.
coming from? Where are they coming from? Do you know?
I know. Oh shit! YouTube they're taking me down. Fuck. No. How would I Twitch or whatever?